Let's go ahead and take a quick look at text layers inside of Photoshop. So if we go over to the type tool and we just click out here, and we'll just do the regular hello there, and let's make this big enough so that we can see it. So we'll do 288, make it nice and big, and we can move that where we need it to go. You can see in Photoshop that it creates a text layer over to the right hand side. So this works like any other layer. We have the ability to move it around. We can turn on and off visibility. We can search by text layers only at the top and do all the normal things that you could do with a layer. However, it does have the ability to be editable because it is a text layer. So if we double click on it, it allows us to highlight that text, and then we can go back and adjust it at any later date. Now this is a vector type graphic and it's a type layer, so it has all the abilities that we can use with the type tool. We can also do some other things with this layer, such as turning it into a rasterized image so that it's pixel information, or turning it into a shape, and all these other things, and we'll take a look at that. One of the first things that you might want to do is create a layer mask with this type so that you could actually edit within this mask. So what do I mean by that? If I have that actual text layer turned on here, and I go to the bottom and I click on add layer mask, we can add a layer mask to the type tool just like we would do with any other layer mask. So we can go over here and we can go ahead and pick whatever we want. So if you remember, white shows everything, black takes away, so we'll leave it on black for the layer mask, and we'll select like our brush, and then we can come in and we can start editing the layer mask, and it will cut away at that layer for us. And that gives us the ability to do all kinds of neat effects within inside of Photoshop using masks. We can also invert that mask if we would like to and get the opposite effect, and you can see the mask changes over in the layers panel. So you have all the abilities of using layer masks that you could use with any other type of layer. You can also do things like give it a layer style or any of the layer adjustments. So we can do something like a stroke, and now we can actually stroke this text layer, which is great because this opens up a whole wide range of things that we can do, such as giving it a bevel and emboss. Let's turn off the stroke. So you can see now that text layer is beveled, and you have all of those abilities that you would normally have with another layer. So that gives us a way to create all kinds of awesome looking layer styles, and you could also use layer adjustments to affect this layer. Now at some point you may want to turn this into a rasterized layer, which basically means it goes from being a vector graphic to pixel information. And if we right click on that layer, you will see it says rasterize type. And you'll find this in other places too. If we go to the top and we click on type, we can see rasterized type layer. So if I click on that, what happens is now if you look over in the layers panel, we have what looks like a normal image. So we have a transparent background. If we get rid of this background, you can see we have transparency. But the image is now pixel information. We can no longer come in and adjust this text. It's going to try to create new text because it is no longer editable. We have rasterized it, or we've turned it into pixel information. So it's going to react just like you would use any of the tools. So for instance, we can grab the smudge tool and we can come in and smudge this information. That's not something that you would be able to do with a normal layer. So if I have the smudge tool and I undid all that, you look, we're back to a normal text layer. I can't smudge this because it has to be rasterized. So when I try to do that, it says this type layer must be rasterized before proceeding. So I'm going to cancel that. So when we have a text layer, we can't use some of these tools. We'll have to actually rasterize that layer. So I'll right click, rasterize type, and now I can use the smudge tool because now it's reading it as pixel information and not as a text layer. So that's one thing that you can do as far as the layers inside of Photoshop. You can also turn the type into other things too. You can convert it to paragraph text, you can convert them to shapes, and you can create work paths or extrude to 3D, which we'll look at. But for instance, we can convert this to a shape, and now it's tried its best to turn this into a shape, And we have the full options of, say, the pen tool to come in here and start adjusting this information. So I can go in, I can do my edits. Let's go ahead and pick the direct select tool so we can pick a corner and say we want to edit this. Now it's reading it as a shape, and if you look over in the layers panel, it has turned it into a shape layer. So there's a lot that you can do with text layers inside of Photoshop. And if you remember, not only do you have all the fonts available to you, but you also have all the glyphs available to you. So we could come in here and let's just go ahead and edit this text and say we wanted to use this double arrow in our design. Even though this isn't, words or alphabets per se, it's still viewed as a text layer. So I can click on that symbol here. I'll double click, it'll replace it because it was highlighted. And we can use this as a text layer, so we have all of our text options, or we can do any number of those things that we just looked at. So we can come back to our layer styles and we can give this a bevel and emboss, and it will emboss that for us there. And we can save that out, and then we can always rasterize this type if we want to, and it rasterizes that for us. So you have a wide range of things that you can do using text layers and layers inside of Photoshop, and hopefully that gives you an idea of some of the available items that you can use in some of your designs or graphic work.